Well, I never thought I would actually be speaking at a venue like this at all. I'm so used to talking to high school students and middle school students with the attitudes, the cell phones, and the frustration that comes with no one listening. And so this, I'm totally mixing it up, because obviously you guys don't need me to tell you, don't smoke so much weed, don't hang out with the person. Do you know who you're sitting by? Do you really know who you're sitting by? Maybe you should go sit somewhere else. So I'm going to mix it up. The couple of things that I am going to talk about, obviously, why am I here? I don't have any face tattoos. In fact, somebody came up to me, Peter Moore, I remembered because the name, I'm going to take this off, the name tag, but it was an older gentleman. He's in here somewhere. There he is right there. And he comes up to me, and like Sarah was saying, right off the bat, well, an older male, he's got glasses. I assume who he is. I think, oh, this guy works for the federal government. Why is he even coming up? I just have to stay here and just shake his hand. And then he's like, I just got out of the halfway house. And I said, what do you mean? And then I'm thinking, oh, he must have been working there, and then he came over here. Because I'm making the assumption, where's your face tattoos, right? And it's the same thing with me, is that I don't have that look of a criminal, of a drug addict, of basically a piece of garbage that was capable of everything that I did. But it doesn't matter. I did those things, and now I'm dealing with them. But thank you for having me here. I'm going to explain basically just the chain of events that happened to me. So I was a good kid growing up. The reason that I banned PowerPoint altogether. I'm done with technology. It's definitely the user. So I'm just going with this photo thing, because there's no clicking, there's no freaking out, getting upset, wondering what's going on with the videos. But to give you an idea, this kind of sums up my life, kind of. Right here is when I was in 8th grade, and that's my wife, Emily. We're still together. She was so mad at me when I finally let her read through you guys' pamphlet, and she's like, this is not what you told me it was going to be. I thought you were going to go and speak at like a jail or judges. This is about family staying. I could have been there, Anthony. And so it's just like, I don't even want to deal with it. But we are still together, okay? That was in 8th grade. I loved this girl like crazy, and she did not like me, okay? She did not like me. She liked the bad boys, and that was 8th grade. I was not that at all. All the way through high school, same thing. That wasn't me. I didn't have that look. I didn't have that personality. I wasn't a jerk. I didn't smoke cigarettes and roll them up. And I guess they don't do that anymore. But this was the day I was released in Orlando Airport. I know you can't, the furthest one on the top left. My wife flew out there to pick me up. But my last prison that I was at was FCI Coleman. And that was April 4th, 2013. And I'll hopefully have time to get into how I was feeling the day I was released. It's definitely not, I remember as a kid watching Shawshank Redemption. I'm sure you guys have seen that movie with Morgan Freeman when he gets on that bus. After Andy Dufresne, goes through the whole thing, he's writing letters from the beach and all that. But he's on that bus, and I always thought, man, that must be the greatest feeling ever. All that time. The mentality, to have value on that time. Yes, I had that. But there's this big cloud that surrounds it all. And my experiences while inside will give you better insight on that. That's us down at the zoo. This is a children's book. I started working on that when I was actually in solitary confinement. And that whole book actually was just a nightmare. I remember one time, anybody from the BOP here? Anybody from the BOP? I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Yeah. Oh, hey, perfect. You're close to the door anyway. I'm just kidding. Oh. I'm just giving you a hard time. If you guys are here, I really am impressed. You guys obviously care. But while writing that children's book inside prison, that was Big Springs. in Texas. I was actually given an incident report for using a typewriter for non-legal purposes. I went and I fought this thing, right? I mean, it was like a 2-month-long thing. But there was 9 open typewriters, and I'm using one of them. No one is using the other 8. And they write me an incident report for using the typewriter. And you wouldn't think that it would be a big deal, but then they take away my phone privileges. Now, I'm in Texas. That's the only way I can talk to my kids and visiting for 180 days. I mean, for writing a kid's book that's aimed at helping people. So really, it's just this distortion of who's helping, who's not helping. Okay, so that explains all that, all right? Basically, I was a good kid, loved that girl, she didn't love me. Eventually, persistence did not pay off, right? Did not at all. Until finally I just gave up and I went, for the other girl. I don't know what it is with women, but it's like as soon as, that, oh, he doesn't like me. And now all of a sudden she wants to be, to be together. So my dream had come true. I'd gotten the woman that I've always wanted, right? It took like 4 years. So that was my junior year in high school. Athletically, I was gifted. And sports became everything to me. My dad played football at the University of Idaho. He was a wide receiver. And that was my dream, is to be just like my dad. He had this big old picture, black and white photo in his home office. And I remember as a little kid, I'd always look up at it. He had his helmet off on the sidelines, like 70, poofy hair. And I would look at him and be like, I want to be just like my dad. And that dream was happening. I was going on to play wide receiver at the University of Idaho. Everything was just falling into place, right? Now, while I was in college, it was my freshman year, I got into that whole scene, the party scene. And, I wouldn't say I was anything different than, a lot of people that are, if you guys from Washington State University, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. But, yeah, go Cougs. So, anyways, based on comparing to Washington State, I was totally normal, okay? I was just a normal college student, and I did have a dream, and I kept pursuing this. Well, I got into a little bit of legal trouble, MIP. I was another MIP the second week after the first one, and I was actually suspended from the team, and this just kind of sent me in that downward spiral. Now, luckily for me, I got a second chance when the coaching staff, they took off and they brought in totally new coaches, right, from Colorado. And here I was, clean slate, practicing, playing. I was totally focused again, right? Everything was going great. I was going to get playing time. It would have been redshirt freshman. So everything was back. I got a second chance, even after, 2 legal hits on me already. And during a punt return in practice, I'm just returning a kick, nothing big, AstroTurf. My leg caught, and it kind of sticks on that type of grass. And I got hit, pop, ACL, tore out my ACL. Now, this was the year 2000. Vicodin wasn't yet on the scene with the younger generation. It wasn't known like it's known now, like OxyContin. Everyone knows what it is. Back then, people didn't really know what it was. I mean, there was definitely the circles that knew, but it wasn't like Eminem was out there rapping about it. It took more things like that to happen before it became so widespread. And so here I'm prescribed this, right? And I start taking it just exactly how it's prescribed. And then obviously that changes, right? I start taking a little bit more. And then I go back to the team doctor. Their whole thing is they want to get at that level, Division I, they want you back on the field. And they just kept giving me pills. Now, I'm not blaming it on them because I don't know if they actually knew the whole, the nightmare behind this stuff. So as time went on, I'm taking more and more of these things. It got to be like 15 a day. It got to be where I started doctor shopping, which is going around to different doctors in the area, faking an injury, saying my back hurts, something that they can't really see. Well, one thing that I stopped doing is I stopped going to practice. I didn't care anymore. I did not care. In order to keep a scholarship, you got to keep going to practice at least. I didn't care. None of that mattered to me. And it's kind of like this cycle that goes on. All my value was wrapped up in sports. And here, with this injury, man, that's gone. I become insecure. You know, here I was used to being this big fish in a very small pond. And, you know, I guess major to me at the time, setback happens. And I'm not even given a chance to really deal with it. I'm given medicine. And you know what that does? All those insecurities go away. I felt great. And this went on and on. Eventually, scholarship is gone. I'm transferring to Washington State. Okay? And something that happens while I'm over there is I start experiencing a thing called withdrawal. Now, I didn't know what withdrawal is except on A&E intervention, you know, seeing these people freaking out and all that kind of stuff. Well, I start going through this. And the very first time that this is happening to me, I remember it was a night and Emily was over, and I was trying to just sleep it off, like, oh, I'll just sleep this thing off. And as the hours went on, it got worse and worse and worse. And my whole body is just dying for this stuff. I remember I went down to, it was called Rosars, and bought a full bottle of NyQuil. Before the night was over, I drank this whole bottle of NyQuil. And yeah, it made me super tired, but it didn't even touch it. The way it is, the way addiction truly is, it's like being held underwater and you just want one thing. Man, if someone's holding you underwater and you say, hey, you want a winning lottery ticket? Hey, I know pizza's your favorite food. You want some pizza? Man, they don't care. Not at that moment. All they need is their oxygen, period. That's how addiction is for me. That was the pull of it. I needed to take care of that need first. And so in my head, I'm starting to shake. I'm starting to get all these, these feelings, suicide, like the sweats, the diarrhea, everything, the misery. I just wanted to crawl out of my skin and die. That's how addiction is for me. And why I kept going back for a decade after this, I have no idea. But so what I did then is I took off my shoe and my sock, went up to an oak coffee table, and I kicked it. Boom, boom, over and over and over again until I couldn't even walk. I mean, who does that? Someone who is basically possessed. That's what addiction was to me. And so maybe a month later, I've had enough, It's starting to be obvious to people around me that actually care, which is very few. Emily, my mom, you got to get to treatment. You got to go to treatment. So I went to Sundown Ranch in Yakima, and it was great. They gave me the knowledge, they gave me all this stuff, and I ended up going back. I ended up going back into the same environment, and I wasn't ready to change. A little problem happened, grades or something. So I go right back to what makes me feel good. Pills. I know it works. Makes me feel good. I go back to it. This was my introduction to criminal activities. Okay? In order to get my oxygen, I became willing to do anything. Anything. Started, forging prescriptions, going around, buying them off the streets. Started selling drugs. As time went on, that progressed. It got a little bigger, a little more money, little bolder type crimes. All of this type of stuff became completely normal to me. By the time that I ended up leaving school, I graduated. My degree is all a fraud. I am a fraud. My past, except for the last 2 years, fraud. Everything about me is fake. I paid someone else to do my classes. I am nothing but a joke when I talk about that person. That person on the bottom right who thought he was so cool, so arrogant. Man, I don't want nothing to do with him. My morals and my integrity, it wasn't like this overnight thing. And so I'm back here. Well, I got friends, that I'm involved with, that network. You know, they moved back. They know this person. They know that person. This got worse and worse, and my involvement became bigger and bigger. And I wanted to be like these criminals. My goal and my dream wasn't to be some football player like my dad. No. It was to be a criminal. I took pride in that. I mean, I used to actually believe some of this stuff, like in The Sopranos, you know, in these movies about the mafia, about cartel. It wasn't until I went into prison to realize that's all an absolute joke. Only after meeting these people did I realize this. But I was the one that believed it. I was so polluted. And like many criminals at the time, I got involved with real estate. And man, that was the easiest thing ever. And I don't even know if half of it they didn't even consider illegal. So I rode that wave, and that just fed in to my ego even more. I had to have a big house. I had to have a fancy car, a Range Rover, whatever it was, because I was so insecure with who I was. You know what I drive now? I'm actually kind of still embarrassed because I was worried if I was going to even get here, especially on the highway. The minivan, man, and this minivan, not even a new one. This isn't like a new fancy one. This is one that smells like my aunt's dogs who had handed it down to me. I mean, there was a light that went out. I went down to Napa to get it fixed, and by the time I went down there, it's working again. And then so I leave, I go back home, the thing's not working. I'm like, fine, I know nothing about it. I'm going to open it up. So I open this thing up, and there's like MacGyver had been in there like 20 times. I mean, it really, my ego is in check just from driving this thing, okay? So anyways, that's not who I was then. I had to have that stuff because I was so empty with who I was, right? And so this whole power thing, it was the same type of thing. So now I'm stuck with a bunch of properties, right? I think when the market finally crashed, I had, 3 or 4 homes and some buildable lots or something. The market crashed. My wife, the smart one, was telling me, Anthony, let's move into a small apartment. I could not do that. Now, had I listened, man, we would have been fine. We totally would have been fine. No. I had to have this to the point where I just go to the next thing. Now, my daughter, the one on the left, and actually both pictures, Isabella, she was 2 years old at the time when I was finally arrested. The other one was 20 days old. Now, to give you an idea of what type of father I was, when she was from basically 0 to 1, the first thing I'm trying to do is run out of the house to do cocaine. Or I got to do coke in the morning. Then I got to take pills all day. And then at night I got to take Valium to go to sleep. I mean, it's like I'm just like a zombie. It's just insane, right? I remember this, we were remodeling this house one time. And even the guys that I had hired were looking at me like, this guy is insane. Like, there was this house and a detached garage, right? And I used to go and I started smoking cocaine. And that pull it has is just so much more intense. And I would go up there, who knows what, say something, and then go back down there every 5 minutes to this shed that wasn't remodeled yet. And it was just like, that was my life. All I wanted to do was get to that shed. This was in Seattle. We lived, I think at the time in like Lake Stevens or Mill Creek. And I did not care. I mean, I didn't care enough to quit using drugs for my kids. I don't even remember when they're born. I don't even remember it. There's nothing I can do about that. So, the next thing for me when the market crashes is not move into a small apartment. My thing is, okay, white collar goes down, I'm going to go blue collar again. So I start planning an armored car robbery. Now, people think it's crazy or whatever. Yeah, it is crazy and stupid. But that's how I thought then. So it's just one thing after another. I go and I'm scouting this thing out, plan this thing for several months, figure out how I'm going to do it. I mean, dressed up in disguises, act like a landscaper to pull this thing off. And anyways, the day of the crime goes through, everything works the way it's supposed to work, I guess. I got away. And this is what's so funny. is that inmates in prison would come up to me and be like, Anthony, how'd you get away with it? Be like, dude, I'm in here with you. But I got away, right, for about 2 months. You know who caught me? A homeless man. A homeless man. We're crushed with time a little bit, but I'm not going to get into all the details with that. But he had witnessed me doing a practice run. And I was wearing like a Velcro type outfit over another outfit. And it was a hot day for around here. Nothing like how it's been lately. But I had taken this stuff off and I'd been wearing a wig so the armored car driver would get comfortable with me every Tuesday on his delivery. And I had put in this disguise behind a dumpster while I went and did my time run. Well, a homeless man saw me when I came back and written down my plates a week later. Or sorry, a week before the crime had happened. So basically I was caught before it even happened. It's just the feds, you know, they were so convinced it was probably an inside job. Who wants to listen to a tip from a homeless man? You know, they went all their other avenues until finally they're like, hey, we should look into this. Sure enough. And people used to ask me, man, you probably just hate bums. No. I mean, I got a credit. I remember, Alan Dean. I have actually reached out to him a couple of times now. And, he doesn't want to meet me, and I totally get that. But the guy saved my life. So the consequences to these actions is prison. So now I'm going into the system. Mr. Big Shot in my head, Where did I leave my wife and my kids? Out here with nothing. But at that time, I was still caught up in my own ego. I'm not thinking about this. I'm thinking about myself. So I go into Snohomish County was first, then I got charged federally, went down to SeaTac. And I'm getting introduced into prison politics. And this is kind of a big reason why a lot of people, I think, don't actually get that chance to change, is because they don't actually accept what's going on with their lives, which at this point I didn't either. But it's this tough guy thing, right? It's all about being tough. And everyone's pointing at the rats or the pedophiles or something. Everybody's pointing at somebody else. Right? And what's so crazy about it is so many of these people cooperate in their cases, but they're all lying about it. Then like the amount of social issues that they have in their lives, the problems with their wives, their problems with anything on the outside, just dealing with that, being ripped from your life and dealing with those emotions. But yet they all say the same type thing. Man, I just told my girlfriend and my wife, just take off. I'm going to do my bid, and then I'm going to be done. And then we'll talk things. But in reality, they won't admit the truth. Man, it hurts not being around my kids. It hurts being in here. Instead, it's all about clicking up. Prison is one of the most racial places ever. Blacks there, Mexicans there, whites there, and it even gets segregated down even more. Thankfully, I didn't have to be involved with the whole Aryan garbage because my Italian last name. So I just sat with the Italians and just listened to them talk and talk and talk. By the end of my sentence, I was sitting alone, to give you an idea, okay? So this is SeaTac. Meanwhile, my wife's going through all this stuff. She's finding out things, and I keep lying and lying. She's finding out things like me having an affair. Yeah. That's the type of person I was. The guy that loved her so much, I was so insecure. I needed to have, just somebody, oh, Anthony, you're so great. Someone look at, the male ego. Man, times that about 1 million. That was me. And I did that, betrayed the woman who had always been there for me. Always. And now I'm in prison and I'm still lying to her. Still lying about everything. I can't deal with it. Then I get shipped off. I get designated to Big Springs, Texas. It's right after a riot that they had there. And must have been 4 or 5 months in there when finally my wife's yelling at me on the phone. You're beep, 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 beep. And she's telling me the truth. And what I'm saying is, no, no, no. And then finally after the phone hung up, I looked around and I realized I'm in the middle of nowhere. I looked around at all these guys and it's like, man, I don't have anything anymore. No money, no power, no friends. All my friends had, cooperated on me anyway. I had nothing. And I started to look at my life a different way. This was the first thing that had happened to me in my long journey of, getting somewhat normal again. Was I started to look at things down the road. Like, well, once I tell her the truth, I accepted, hey, she deserves the truth. I'm going to tell her anything she wants to know. And I looked at it like, well, when she's divorced and we're split up 10 years from now, maybe then when the kids ask her, why'd you guys split up, or how do you look at Daddy, she'd at least be able to say, Daddy made some horrible choices, but at least he came clean. At least he had enough honor to tell me the truth. And that's how I looked at things. And I figured it was a lost cause. And so finally I just told her everything she wanted to know. She flew down there, and the whole truth shall set you free in the Bible, that's a bunch of garbage. Man, it made me miserable. It made me miserable. But that was kind of the start to it all. We didn't talk for many, many months. And I got transferred to La Tuna to start the RDAP program in Texas. It's right outside El Paso. And while I was there, getting ready to go into RDAP, two actually Italian guys ended up, they got drunk. There's Pruno and nasty stuff in there. But they got drunk and they found out that one of the guys that they had been associating with was a child molester. Well, they attacked this guy bad, real bad. And when SIS came to figure it all out the next day, doing their investigation, man, you hang out with, the people that you run, I don't really run with anybody, but those were my people, Italians. So, they took us all. There was 5 of us on the basketball court just talking. 2 of them did it. The other 3 didn't even know. I didn't know. And we go into solitary confinement, which is kind of weird because at first you have a cellie in there. My first couple months when I was in there, I had a cellie. And going through this, there's everything has changed. Like, you're just in a box. That's it. I'm under investigation, okay? And I sit under investigation for 2 months. They're telling me, you're going to get out on Tuesday. You're going to get out next Tuesday. And this is where that serious distrust started to happen. Whenever they would cuff us up, there's a little hole in the thing that they cuff you through. Then they make you step back. They open it, and then they walk you down to the showers. We get showers there once every 3 days. And phone calls there once every month. We get a 15-minute phone call, but they'd wheel down a phone on a cord, and sometimes, Morales is his name, to be funny, he'd knock the cord off, because it's not like wireless. He'd knock it off, and so disconnect. You don't get a phone call again for another month. And that's the only thing that keeps you going. And so there's this war that went on between the guards and the inmates. There was this one guy that, man, something was seriously wrong with him. He needed help. He was sitting there yelling, kill me, just this echo over and over. And he was, a couple doors down in the corridor. And they came there, they grabbed him, they escorted him down to the psychology viewing area. Anyone that works in a prison system knows these all glass things where they look through. They 4-pointed this guy, okay? And that's gonna help him. Then they bring this guy back, and the same thing happens. Kill me, and he does it. Everyone, just no one is sleeping. The guards, the only time the guards and the inmates were actually on the same page. We both didn't like that guy. So you know how that they dealt with him? They brought a big industrial-sized fan, and they set it up right outside the cell door, and they turned that thing on. Drowned him out like a dog. Now after a while, months and months, the same thing over and over again. The only book that I saw in there had the last 4 pages ripped out. I'm like, man, who does that, right? And I'm sitting in there, and I'm dealing with all these emotions, and I'm going crazy, right? My cellie ended up telling me that I was on the top bunk, that he raped this girl, right? And he was laughing about it. Well, at this time, I'm totally messed up. Incident happens. That's the last time that I had a cellie. They put me by myself, right? And I really started to lose it. I really was losing it. The worst part about solitary for me was every morning, 6 o'clock, lights pop off. Every night, 11 o'clock, they go down, okay? It's an old prison, 1930 prison right outside of El Paso, you can imagine, okay? You better make sure you have a sheet and wrap it all the way up when the lights go off at 11, because the cockroaches come out of there. It's disgusting. In the morning, it became so normal just to wake up and all these little shadows on the other side of it. And it's cockroaches. And it's just like there's that first 5 seconds of panic. Like, did one get on me? Did one get on me? Because, you all hear there was a guy that was down the way that had one getting to his ear. And he had to try to get it out with some water, and it just went down, burrowed further. I mean, it was crazy. And so you flick them off and you just wait. You just wait like a minute or two, and then they're all gone. I have no idea where these things go. It started to just do its work on me, where I just hated everybody. I hated inmates. I hated guards. I hated myself. I wanted to just be done with life. And so one thing finally happened that opened my eyes to all of it. There was the inmates wanted to get back at this guard, Morales. I'd said his name earlier. And they had planned this whole thing. They got up in the vents, and they took these little clear shampoo bottles and mixed it up with soap and water, squirted it out, so you got a slippy corridor. Then a couple of them were able to take their sheets and pull off the light covers, and then get those long light bulbs in there, crush those things up, throw them on the ground. Then, on Morales' shift, boom, 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 they're kicking the door. Cell 116's having a heart attack. Cell 116's having a heart attack. Get down here. Keys. Now, keys to me, even 3 years out, I hate them. It's like the sirens. You know something's wrong. It's stress. Well, here comes the guard. The guard's running. Sure enough, I mean, it was whoop, slips and falls. Now, I'm looking through this too. It's like a bunch of vultures looking through one of those plexiglass things. Everybody's watching, and it's sick. You can feel the hate. And I felt I was part of it. This guy slips, he falls, and it's like there's that weight, but he's got a short sleeve on. And you see just slowly little pools of blood coming out, some faster, some slower. And as he's trying to get up, the struggle, he cuts his hands, his face, and everything. He's got blood all over him. People are yelling and chanting. I mean, it's crazy. That's the environment. This moment is what changed me. Because when Morales got up and turned around, and I saw his face, I realized it wasn't Morales. It was some new young kid, probably coming back from the war, that just started at this prison. And it was like seeing a young blonde guy. I never saw him again after that. This guy didn't have nothing to do with any of this. Nothing. How do you think he treats inmates now? I don't blame him. After my whole thing, how do you think I look at guards now? I mean, it's a war. It's an absolute war, the environment. And you guys get to get these people right after they experience this life. You guys get to help them. Man. So yeah, when I come out after being lied to about everything, my wife is treated like a criminal. A guard Facebooks her. I mean, it's just sleazy. My kids, I remember when my youngest, the first time I tried holding her and visiting, you're allowed to put them on your lap. Man, this guard harassed me so bad. Harassed me, threatened to end my visit. I can't have him on my lap. Man, look up my chart. I'm not a sex offender. I'm not a pedophile. That's the first time I basically got to hold my daughter. I understand. I put myself in there. That's where I directed all of my blame. That's what happened to me when I was in there in solitary after that moment, is I realized, who did this to you, Anthony? Who did this? Did you make that guard like that? Did you make these inmates like that? No. Quit thinking about them. Who did this? Why are you here? Because of my choices. But I know you guys are here for a totally different reason. It's trying to actually help people. Trying to help the people that were unfortunate, that didn't grow up. I mean, my whole childhood was with, I had every chance there was. There were so many people that did not have those chances. Just flat out dealt a worse hand. And so, of course, choices, to get out of that situation leads to criminal type behaviors. Addiction. Man, I can't even tell you. You guys probably all know someone, not just that you work with, but also maybe down in the family line, someone you may remember as a kid, and now they're on drugs. They're not the same person. They're not. It's absolutely horrible. Now, why did I change? It's been, when I first went into CTAC, I was still drinking when I was in there. It was August 4th, 2009, since I've had a drink of alcohol. Then again, you can't really trust me because my probation officer is here. But I've been sober and clean. I haven't even had a Tylenol PM because I know how those chemicals are for me. I know what they do to me. And I know even with drinking, yeah, it'd be nice. It would be nice just to be like, I don't have a lawn at the apartment, but I could go mow the community lawn, I guess. And it'd be nice to have a beer. But I know how that is for me. I know it's something that just doesn't mix. It's like people that have diabetes. It sucks. But yeah, after you know about it, you got to do the steps you got to do in order to stay healthy. So what's best for me is staying clean, okay? When I was in there, after going through this whole sadistic 7 months of the cockroaches and all this stuff, I started to be like, man, when I get out, and right now, I'm going to look at life from when I die. Right before I'm dying, how do I want to look back at things? Do I want to look back? Do you think I'm going to be like, oh man, that Range Rover was awesome? No. Do you think that money's going to matter to me right before I die? No. I am not money motivated. I know restitution doesn't like to hear that, but I'm sorry, I'm not. I will pay that money off somehow, eventually, I hope. But yeah, who I am today, I'm guessing this, is it cutoff time? Oh, I know, I'm running out. Bad news when I see you, huh? So, yeah, I am not a money motivated person. I am motivated by one thing. That's passion. After going through that experience, I know what it is that I want to do. And what's unfortunate is I've been speaking for like 2 years, right? And someone very, very close to me who I love so much, she told me, she said, she was mad. Why are you doing this to us, Anthony? Why are you in the newspapers? Why are you doing this? And I'm trying to explain to her, Mom, imagine this. I'm trying to come up with this great parable, thinking, notice that it's not a story, it's a parable. But I'm telling her, Mom, it's kind of like if, someone's walking down the forest and they fall into this hole, that they didn't see. Are they going to crawl out and cover it back up with bushes and then keep walking? Or are they going to stand by there and be like, hey, watch out for that hole? I just chose to stand there and stay by that hole and make sure other people don't fall in. Now I know they're still going to fall in, and I'm thinking this is such a great story. She's going to really, like this. Man, Anthony, why are you doing this to us? You didn't listen to anybody. No one's going to listen to you. These kids aren't going to change. Why are you doing this? Why are you going? So you want to save a couple high school or middle school kids from this at the expense of losing your own family? And I say, I'm losing my family because of this? Because of what I'm choosing to do? Yeah, we all like your children's book, but the jail one? You really have to do that? If I told you who's saying this to me, you'd be like, wow. It's not my wife, But every time I would leave a high school or school, I would hear this person that I love and respect so much. I would hear it, and I believed it. I believed that she's right. She's right. These kids aren't listening to me. They don't care. For months, it sucked. It's like worthless feeling. Imagine that. No matter what you do, you can't help anyone. And I'm sure there's times in your guys' career that you have felt like that. Well, I felt like that for a long, long time. And this is going to conclude my speech, but this would stay with me. And I was doing this report, school report, with my daughter, the oldest one, and Isabella's her name. We're doing this report, and they got to pick an animal. She picks a leather star. I don't even know what who picks something? Why not a cheetah or something cool like that, right? She picks this leather star, which is a starfish. And she wants to learn about this starfish. And so I don't know anything about starfish. And so we're online, and I'm trying to help her do this project. And during the research, I'm just getting annoyed and frustrated, and I don't know, what is interesting enough to bring in this report. Then I came across this story, and I'm going to totally butcher it when I repeat it, but it's called I think it's just called the starfish story. And it's about this old man, basically, who's walking down like a beach, and the tide is back, and the sun's up, and there's all these starfish that are laying on the ground, and they're going to dry up and die if they don't get underwater. And there's just thousands of them. And this old guy, he's doing his thing. He's picking them up and flinging them back into the water, right, one at a time. And this young guy, it's like, hey, old man, a little disrespectful too. He says, hey, old man, why are you doing this? Why are you wasting your time? Don't you know? Don't you look down there and see thousands of them? You could spend all day here and you're not even going to get a tenth of them. You're not even making it. There's no way. No matter what you do, you're not making a difference. And the old man's just doing his thing. And he takes one and throws it, and he's like, well, it made a difference to that one. And I read this while I was really dealing with this thing, because I really love and respect the opinion of this person that said this to me. And I've been fighting it, thinking no matter what I do, it's not helping anyone. And I got a chance to read that. And it was like, you know what? Just one. It's just one. Anyways, thank you guys for your time. Appreciate you.